Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Friday, November the 22nd, 2024. I have an odd request of you. I'm going to wait for a couple of minutes until the stream fills up before I ask it. And it's not for me. It's for a friend I've never met, but I'm still happy to call a friend who happens to be in my area tonight, surprisingly. I didn't know this was happening, and so the request is coming up. And maybe if you're in my area, which is Winnipeg, Southern Manitoba, you can help out with this. All right. Now that I've set that up, let's go ahead and talk about my famous friendly sponsor, CanadaNanoSilver.com. If you're sore, you've been working too hard, or you just turned your head the wrong way, or you sneezed, or you went to pick up something from the floor and it was like, my back. Well, you don't want to go reaching for the A535 with all those chemicals. All that chemical stuff is not good for you when you can have this stuff instead. It is the Recover Muscle Cream, exclusive to CanadaNanoSilver.com, made, of course, with the power of silverceutical technology. Experience the ultimate comfort and relaxation as Recover works its magic. Formulated with cutting-edge technology, the advanced muscle cream provides unparalleled relief, catering to your unique needs. Again, the power of silverceutical technology and no toxic chemicals, unlike the stuff you buy at the big retail chains, right? So check it out for yourself. All the other great products, too. They've got the vitamins, they got the toothpaste, you name it. Go check it out. CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. If you're looking for a retail location near you, you can check the retail locations tab on the website. There are over 30 all across the country. And if you want to become a retailer of these awesome products, you get a hold of Kevin and Anna through the contact tab at CanadaNanoSilver.com. Again, that is CanadaNanoSilver.com. All right, who's watching tonight? Noranda is watching from Calgary. Hello, Noranda. Nancy, Linda's in Medicine Hat. Vicky's in Nova Scotia watching tonight. Hello, Bob in Sudbury. Mimi's in Austinfeld. Hello, Nancy watching in Cape Breton. Greg is watching in Kingston. Brian's watching in Saskatoon. Hello, you guys. You're all watching on Facebook? Anybody on YouTube? Yes, it's Tracy H. watching on YouTube tonight. And Tony is watching in Calgary on X. Whatever platform you happen to be watching the show on tonight, I'd appreciate it very much. If you would like and share, get this out to as many people as you possibly can. You may have heard that Pat King has been found guilty of 5 of the 9 charges he was indicted on related to the Freedom Convoy from almost 3 years ago now. We're going to get to that in just a second. Special report coming in from Patriot Smoothie / Right Blend in just a couple of seconds. Hello, everybody on Rumble. No to China sends. Or Ronnie from Calgary, who happens to be a longtime viewer. Thank you, Ronnie, for that. Susie Q's watching. Lorsal 55, Maggie Barber, Cosford, Patricia, Dorsa, Esky Dogs, Nana Sue, Wibble. Wibble, 1969. Notable is watching tonight. All you regulars on Rumble, thank you for being here. Don't forget, do what you do. Get it out there to as many people as we possibly can. Okay, so here's the request I have for you guys, and I'm going to bring her up on the screen in case you've forgotten. It's been a while since she's been on the show. Her name is Colleen Brandsey. There she is there right next to me on that picture. I think she was on the show maybe in the springtime. Probably in the springtime. And she was talking about her vaccine injury. She is a nurse. And she was injured by this stuff. And she went through all kinds of hell afterwards. She lost her husband this year. She is a tremendous person. She has got one of the biggest hearts you'll ever see. Not physically. You know what I'm talking about. And she's rolling through Manitoba tonight. Now, I didn't know this, but she texted me about an hour ago, 2 hours ago maybe, and said, can you think of any hotels? I said, well, I don't stay in many hotels in my hometown. But she's been calling around and every place is booked. Big city, weekend, lots of things going on. So if there is anybody in the Winnipeg area who wants to help out by putting her up for the night, she's going to Grand Prairie to stay at a friend's hunting lodge as a vacation. All right, that's your idea of a vacation in wintertime with the snow and the cold. Awesome. Whatever floats your boat, I say. So if anybody is interested in putting up Colleen, if you could write it down in the comments or send me a message on Facebook or an email, shadowdavis@gmail.com, and I will get your number or your address to Colleen, and then you guys can hook up. If that's okay. I've never asked that before. So I only do that for special people, obviously, and Colleen is one of the good ones. So yeah, if you're interested, if you've got the space, if you want some company for the night, that's not, you know what I mean. Hey, looking for some company. That's not what I'm talking about here. She's just a good person, really good person. All right, what was I? Oh, yes, right, Pat King. So here's the deal with Pat, a key figure in what became the Freedom Convoy, according to the CBC. And by the way, Patriot Smoothie / Right Blend went off on the media today. You'll see why in just a couple of minutes. Anyway, he's been found guilty, Pat has, of 5 charges, 2 counts of disobeying a court order and 1 each of mischief, counseling to commit mischief, and counseling to obstruct a public or peace officer. He's been found not guilty of 4 charges, 3 of intimidation and counseling to commit intimidation, and 1 of obstructing a public or peace officer. Unbelievable. Here is Pat exiting the courtroom.
Stop pushing.
Video courtesy of Karma Said.
Stop pushing. Out of the way. You're blocking. Move out of the way. Move out of the way. Move out of the way. Move. Let him move. Get out. Move. Out of the way. Move. Out of the way. Move. Get out of the way. Out of the way. Get out of the way. You're blocking him. Stop blocking him. Move. Out of the way. You guys are obstructing the path.
It's enough. Get out. Get out. Let him move. How are you? Move. Let him walk.
Let him walk. Let him walk. Stop pushing.
Let him walk. Move.
Stop it.
Move.
Bastards.
All right. I mean, that was absolute chaos down there. It only lasted for about 5 or 10 more minutes. And then Right Blend, our friend John Villeneuve, did his stand-up from just across the street from the courthouse, and it was 13 minutes. You can see the whole thing on his YouTube or on his X. I've edited it down to about 5 or 6 minutes, And here it is.
Been found guilty of 5 charges of the 9 charges laid against him, and not guilty of 4 charges. His 5 charges he was found guilty of include mischief, counseling, obstruct, resist police, and then he was found not guilty of all the intimidation charges and not guilty of personally obstructing or resisting police, as the court has found that he was cooperative with police and that his arrest was unremarkable. The arresting officer, Officer Carmel, also testified earlier in the trial that in his professional opinion an offence had not been committed during the effect of Pat King's arrest. After the judge asked him a yes or no question, did Mr. King, in your professional opinion, commit an offence when you arrested him? When the judge was going over the not guilty counts, the media had their pens down and their laptops closed. They weren't taking notes. They were looking at the fan.
Wait a minute. That's the full version. I want to give you the shortened version here.
Found guilty of 5 charges of the 9 charges laid against him and not guilty of 4 charges. His 5 charges he was found guilty of include mischief, counseling, obstruct, resist police, and then he was found not guilty of all the intimidation charges and not guilty of personally obstructing or resisting police, as the court has found that he was cooperative with police and that his arrest was unremarkable. The arresting officer, Officer Carmel, also testified earlier in the trial that in his professional opinion an offence had not been committed during the effect of Pat King's arrest. After the judge asked him a yes or no question, did Mr. King, in your professional opinion, commit an offence when you arrested him? When the judge was going over the not guilty counts, the media had their pens down and their laptops closed. They weren't taking notes. They were looking at the fan. They were thinking about how to write the most salacious and basically sensational headline possible, not truth or objective. There was a CBC headline that was published that initially said King found guilty of mischief, not guilty of intimidation. That headline was changed. It was changed. So from the objective truth to found guilty of most, because we want the salacious content. We want to hate people to motivate, to whip up those feelings. And that's something the media has done this entire process from the very beginning of COVID. Media had asked questions from the beginning. Why are we doing these lockdowns? Why is this policy going to work? What is your evidence? If they had done their damn job and asked questions as the government of Canada, under their leadership and direction, malicious direction of Justin Trudeau, bifurcated our society, ripped families and social circles apart, made people lose their job through forcing these mandates upon the provinces, through threatening of withholding funds and so on, and sitting at the head of the premiers and getting that all across Canada and just ripping our society apart, as has been his legacy since he got in office. Group against group, everyone gets divided into their identity, and then everyone's fighting everyone. We're no longer Canadians. You can't be proud to be Canada. Our flag's at half-mast for over a year. No pride in our country. None of that. And continuing that mission, continuing that narrative, and not questioning the government whenever they said their facts about the lockdowns and the harms being done to our society, not doing the right thing, not doing their job, totally enabled this. Because if they didn't do that, the government would not have had the air and the cover they needed to do what they did. People would have woken up a lot sooner, a lot quicker, a lot more, and there would have been actual resistance to the things that were done to Canadians. Instead, we got the mess that we're in. But thankfully, the Freedom Convoy, the people in it, stood up, went to Ottawa, acted in peace, as the judge noted today. The judge noted this in court. You won't hear this in any of the mainstream media. They only care about whatever makes Justin Trudeau look good. But as the judge noted, no evidence in this trial that anybody from the Freedom Convoy, including Pat King, tried to intimidate anyone in any way. There may have been mischief committed, and for which there's convictions, but there was no attempt at intimidation to prevent someone from doing something they're lawfully entitled to do through use of intimidation, of threats of violence, of blocking roads. The government of Canada is not a person. There was a lot of legal reasons. In fact, I have the decision, folks. I have the decision from Justice Hackland of the Superior Court of Justice, the Ontario Superior Court. This is the decision here. This is what he read today about his verdict. This is it here, all right? This is the decision.
It's thick.
There's a lot to it. And there's a lot of detail. I have covered this trial from the very beginning, like several other media. Very few of the media who are here today, the vultures, we will call them, were actually covering this trial from the beginning. A few of them were, and we've talked at length about the failures of the press in Canada, the CBC, CTV, City, Global, whoever. They all failed. They all fell in line. They all refused to actually do the job of the press, to hold the government accountable. They turned their force and their direction and attention against the people who were questioning the government instead of against the government. They worked as a tool of the regime, as a PR firm, as officers of the narrative, instead of actually asking difficult questions and doing the difficult job of the press. They all need to be defunded. They all need to be told in a very strict and poetic way, you're fired. This is not the outcome people wanted. This is the outcome that was foreseeable for us paying attention. It's not the best outcome. It's not a positive day. But what we did is, with our resilience and our strength, we stood strong in there, and the energy that we were projecting in that room sapped the vicious energy of the people who came to salvate and celebrate King's conviction. We took it totally away from them, from the media party, from the limited number of detractors. There were maybe 5 detractors, an overwhelming amount of supporters, one whole half of the courtroom, a very small courtroom, totally loaded. People were standing. They actually allowed people to go sit in the jury box. It was good news, no intimidation. No, Pat King didn't. The evidence says nobody else did. No violence. Huge. The media doesn't care. That should be the threat. No threat of violence from convoy. He even, as I understood it, as I hear it, I'll reread it, said that it was a peaceful protest. That was a lawful protest that may have had mischief committed. That's huge. It's because the mischief convictions are because the mischief conviction threshold is on the floor. Anyone in this country charged with mischief, you should be very afraid. You have no hope in hell of a defense. There's nothing for you. You're guilty. Everybody charged with that offense. There's so many avenues to do it. You know, if we had the same threshold as intimidation, look, nothing there. That's where we're at right now. 5 convictions, 4 not guilties. Sentencing is probably going to be next year. First, there will be a sentencing argument. There will be sentencing submissions by the Crown and the defense saying how long they think the sentence should be, based on the maximum, based on what they want, based on mitigating factors. And then after that, there will be a sentencing hearing where Pat King will determine what's going to happen to him. But do I think he's going back to jail? No, I think he'll probably get time served. The Crown will probably ask for some ridiculous amount of time, but I don't see how that will be justified here. Look at the case of Jason Vanderweer, local jurisprudence of convoy law. Convicted, I believe, of mischief. He was the driver of the shed truck right at the heart of Metcalfe and Wellington. His ultimate sentence was 90 days, conditional sentence. He had 45 days of house arrest, I believe, in 45 days of curfew. So for people salivating, hoping that Pat King goes to jail for some extended amount of time, I'm sorry to break it to you, that's really not a realistic outcome. That's not going to happen. That would be totalitarian.
Now, there's some people who have asked me, hey, Shadow, why didn't you get Right Blend on the show tonight? You know, when he does this, when he goes and covers a court case, especially an important day like today, it's a long day for him. Very long day. He was up there at 8:30 this morning, getting ready, sitting in that courtroom all day long, pushing around with those people, doing reports, filing things, and it's exhausting mentally. It's not like going out and doing physical labor. Absolutely. So you guys who do that, thinking, what do you mean exhausting? It's up here, man. It really grinds on you, and emotionally as well. Obviously, you can see from that video he's charged up. So I will make an attempt to get him on the show at some point in the next week or so. I do have a busy week for guests next week. Catherine Christensen of Valor Law is coming on the show to talk about how her case with those 300 members of the Canadian Forces was dismissed as vexatious by a federal court judge last week. Also, we have Randy Hillier coming on the show on Thursday night. And another one coming on the show, hopefully it's going to be Tuesday night. This is, hang on just a second. I want to make sure I get everything right here. This is Michelle Wharton from Fort St. John, British Columbia, vaccine injured. She's going to be coming on the show, I believe, with her mom and a friend in case she has some problems answering questions or even articulating herself. Sometimes these vaccine injuries come and go, the effects of them, and they hit you when you might be a little bit nervous or anxious, charged up, and you've seen that happen on the show before. So we are going to have some backup for Michelle on Tuesday night. And then we do have another doctor possibly coming on the show next week who was forced to give up her medical records of patients to the College of Physicians and Surgeons in Ontario. I don't know that whole story. I just ran across it last week, but I'm going to find out more about that on Monday or Tuesday, and hopefully we can bring her on at some point next week. So it's going to be a very busy week for guests on the Shadow at Night live stream next week. Do you guys know the name Lauren Southern? This is her X profile. She's a documentarian. She is a YouTuber with something like 600,000 followers on each platform, YouTube and X. She's a big name in the world of right-wing political commentary. Well, Lauren was sitting in committee yesterday in front of conservatives and in front of liberals and NDP members And they wanted to know what her involvement was with Russia. They accused her of being a Russian spy or part of a Russian disinformation network. And here is her opening statement.
Of this committee, I would like to thank you for so enthusiastically inviting me to speak today. My name is Lauren Southern. I am a filmmaker, a YouTuber, and a proud Canadian. In late 2023, I was contracted to make weekly videos by a startup company called Tenet Media. Then recently, the U.S. Department of Justice released an indictment which alleges the founders of Tenet created the company in conjunction with 2 Russian citizens, with funding ultimately originating from the Russian government. Per the indictment, the founders of Tenet Media deceived the personalities they contracted regarding their alleged source of funding. I'll make a few points clear at the outset. At no point in my involvement with Tenet did I ever have knowledge of the allegations in the indictment. And 2, the only person who ever had any creative control over my videos was me. No one from Tenet or anywhere else ever dictated what topics I covered or what opinions I held. I always seek to fight disinformation in all of its forms, and therefore I have a duty to inform this committee that disinformation has been spreading within these very walls. Some in the media and even witnesses to this committee have attempted to paint a picture of Tenet as a hugely influential player in the political media landscape. This, frankly, is just not true. A previous witness to this committee, who went unchallenged, stated that Tenet Media controlled a network of over 16 million subscribers. This is not true. On their largest platform, YouTube, Tenet had barely over 300,000 subscribers. I believe the 16 million figure referred to the total number of subscribers among all of the personalities who had videos contracted or licensed by Tenet. Subscriber base is that, given all of the facts, Tenet had absolutely no control over. To claim that Tenet controlled those subscribers would be like claiming that a TV network had influence over the United States presidency because they air reruns of The Apprentice. The same witness claimed Tenet garnered over 1 billion video views and 20 billion impressions. I have absolutely no idea where those numbers came from. Very readily available public data shows that on its largest platform, YouTube, Tenet received only 16 million total views. Based on the witness's specious numbers, he asserted that Russia received extraordinary value for their money. Anyone with even a cursory understanding of new media would know, however, that $10 million for 16 million views on YouTube hardly qualifies as extraordinary value. In fact, it qualifies as a total failure. So there is, in fact, a silver lining here. If the allegations are true, it appears Russia did attempt to influence Western media, but they failed pretty miserably. Now, I know the chief concern of this committee is how this debacle may have influenced Canadians. Well, I was the only Canadian commentator and the only host that consistently discussed Canadian issues. In fact, if the company had any creative control over me, which they didn't, they probably would have asked me to stop making Canadian videos since they didn't perform very well. So if you were worried about this alleged Russian money unduly influencing Canadian issues, good news, didn't happen. And I'll be honest, it has been surreal for me to watch our government, experts, and media assert that scripts I would jot down in my notes app in a line at the grocery store were secretly part of a giant foreign influence campaign. Arguably, the largest actual impact on Canadians here has been the amount of tax dollars they've had to spend investigating this non-issue. Some in the media and this government seem to have concluded that the only reason a regular Canadian could possibly hold certain views that do not align with the current Liberal administration is because of pernicious, widespread Russian disinformation. I would like to propose an alternative hypothesis, and I know it may sound insane. I know this breaches the borders of conceivable thought, but maybe, just maybe, some Canadians consulted their own moral compass and decided they don't want this country funding foreign wars. Maybe they looked around them at the hospital lineups or housing prices and thought immigration might be a little high. Maybe they lost their business during lockdown and think, I worry about my freedoms in this country. Some in this government are hell-bent on drastically exaggerating the extent of foreign influence because they can't seem to stomach the idea that they might be wrong about something and that a growing majority of Canadians legitimately and organically oppose what they are doing. They simply can't conceive that they are becoming unpopular naturally, so there must be foul play at work. Let me make this abundantly clear once more. No one but myself and my true experiences as a Canadian have informed my opinions. And to any members of this government who may be listening, I would suggest you familiarize yourself with these opinions because they are rapidly becoming the views of the majority of this nation. Thank you.
Ooh, thank you for that, Wiretap Media. There's more. She's good, isn't she? Just wait till you see how she responds to Nate Erskine Smith in a couple of videos from now, and an NDP guy. But here is Lauren Southern telling the world how CSIS just came to her house and intimidated her.
Yes, as I mentioned, CSIS came to my house while I was making dinner for my child and tried to speak with me, but did so in a way that I was not comfortable with. And I have also, quite frankly, experienced quite a bit of harassment and stalking from them. When I told them I did not want to speak, they called me dozens and dozens of times. They found my gym. They told me that if I did not essentially become an informant for them, that I love being a mother, I love my child, and I would love to see him grow up and be there to provide for him. And it would be a shame if something happened to me. So I'm not too impressed with the state of law enforcement in this country right now, to be honest. So I have not been asked to reimburse any of that money, but I have been visited by CSIS, who quite frankly have been putting immense psychological pressure on me to become an informant on this subject and other subjects. Ultimately, I declined because I'm not looking to become an asset for foreign governments nor this government, and I did not like the way in which they threatened and stalked me. And I would like to know how much Canadians paid for that, by the way.
Oh my goodness. She's really good. Here's a member of the NDP giving it a try.
It's important to do due diligence, and you have significant following on social media platforms where misinformation can spread rapidly. How do you ensure that the content you share is not used by foreign entities to amplify narratives that undermine Canadian democracy or national security?
Are you accusing me of spreading narratives that have undermined
I'm just asking
democracy?
you a question, just like, you know, in terms of how do you ensure that the content you share is not used by foreign entities to amplify narratives that undermine Canadian democracy or national security? What measures do you take?
I ensure that every contract I sign and have ever signed in media gives me full creative control of every single thing I say and publish. That's how I ensure it.
Well, there's concerns that individuals or groups may be unintentionally aiding foreign governments in spreading divisive narratives. How do you respond to allegations that your online content has been used to further Russian propaganda or influence Canadian public opinion?
As far as I'm aware, just this month, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced a pause to immigration, or a decrease in immigration for the next 3 years, citing unsustainable growth. This is one of the critiques that has been my main critique on tenant media and off tenant media. And having it portrayed as Russian disinformation by this committee, or even aiding and abetting Russians, has been very interesting. I may understand I may have been right too early on this issue, and as so I must be socially punished by this regime. But although much too late, I happen to believe that Justin Trudeau is making the correct decision there. And I would hope that this committee wouldn't advocate Canadians stop drinking water or wearing seatbelts because someone with the last name Ivanov or Petrov suggested it was a good idea.
Oh, she's brilliant. She's brilliant. I don't know if she was reading that off a paper. It looked like she was kind of glancing down at a paper, anticipating maybe that question. This is Nate Erskine-Smith now of the Liberal Party, also the author of Bill C-293. Grilling her about the great replacement theory. Watch.
You also said, though, in your opening, your views are rapidly becoming the views of the majority of this nation. Do you think the great replacement theory is going to become the views of the majority of this nation anytime soon?
Depends what you mean by the great replacement theory. What do you mean?
Well, what do you mean by the great? Well, that there's an active attempt to replace a white population with a non-white population. What do you mean by it?
I think that there are a lot of people that have concerns about the impacts of mass immigration, removing the culture in certain areas. I think you could ask people in Brampton or individuals in Surrey what they think about the language being spoke around them, whether it's a Canadian language whatsoever, whether they feel that their culture is being preserved. I don't think it's an insane concept. And in fact, I think many Liberals would agree that many cultures and peoples have been replaced before by mass immigration, our Indigenous population not least of all.
You might think it's insane, though, to head over to Russia, speak with a neo-fascist Alexander Dugin, and then praise the guy to say...
Sorry, Mr. Erskine-Smith.
What's he talking about? He had to change the subject because he had nothing to say. But if you want to talk about the great replacement theory, let's talk about it. Marty up north posted this on his X today. He says, I checked the Peel Regional Police's timeline. They did not make a public safety alert in English or in French. Here is a Peel Regional Police sexual assault investigation announcement.
ਸਾਡੇ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਵਿਕਟਿਮ ਯੂਨਿਟ ਦੇ ਜਾਂਚਕਰਤਾਵਾਂ ਨੂੰ 3 ਸੈਕਸ਼ੂਅਲ ਅਸੌਲਟ ਜਿਨਸੀ ਹਮਲੇ ਦੇ ਮਾਮਲਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਸ਼ੱਕੀ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਭਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਘਟਨਾਵਾਂ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਰਥ ਈਸਟ ਇਲਾਕੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਪਰੀਆਂ ਹਨ। ਇਹ ਘਟਨਾਵਾਂ 3 ਅਲੱਗ-ਅਲੱਗ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਵਾਪਰੀਆਂ ਹਨ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਬੱਸ ਅੱਡੇ ਤੇ ਬੱਸ ਦਾ ਇੰਤਜ਼ਾਰ ਕਰ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਸਨ। ਇਸ ਸ਼ੱਕੀ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਰੀ ਦੀ ਪੇਸ਼ਕਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਵੀਕਾਰ ਕੀਤਾ। ਫਿਰ ਇਸ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੂਰ ਲਿਜਾ ਕੇ
No English. No French, just in that language. I'm not even sure what language it is. I don't want to say the wrong one because I don't want to be insulting to anybody. Punjabi, maybe? Bottom line, not one of Canada's 2 official languages. Great replacement theory? I don't know. Why don't you go out to a mall and see for yourself? Any mall will do in any large or medium-sized Canadian city. So the Trudeau Liberals, very desperate. I'm going to bring this back up in just a second. Very, very, very desperate to make some headway in the polls, right? We all know what Trudeau did yesterday. He's giving us all a break on the GST for 2 months starting on December 14th. That's, of course, if he can convince Jagmeet Singh to vote with him when the time comes to vote. And that means they're going to have to pause this whole big cluster F they've got going on in the House of Commons right now because the Liberals won't give those documents about the corrupted $400 million green slush fund to the RCMP. So they haven't been able to take care of any government business now for about a month, but they want, at least the NDP says they do, a 1-day reprieve from that so they can get this temporary GST reduction passed. Here is Justin Trudeau today.
Certainly hopeful that the NDP will see that a frozen parliament doesn't deliver for Canadians. Like I said, the Conservatives have been blocking all the affordability measures that we've been putting forward, and to see the NDP tacitly agreeing with them has been a little confusing for a lot of progressives across the country. So with this measure that has to get through Parliament and get through Parliament quickly so people can start feeling that relief at that tax break as soon as mid-December comes around, the NDP is going to have to step up and get beyond the freeze that we're seeing in Parliament.
Why all the stammering and stuttering all the time? Is it because he's constantly lying? Or he just doesn't know what he's saying? Do you hear Poilievre do that when he talks about stuff? No. Because Poilievre knows what he's talking about. And when you've got the information in here, you don't have to all the time. And Trudeau has been over his head now for what? 12, 13 years, ever since he became the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada, especially since he became Prime Minister. Look at this idiot again.
Economy needs is for people to be able to afford their groceries. What the economy needs is people to be able to be optimistic about the future we're building with good jobs, good opportunities for their kids. We're focused on Canadians. I'll let the bankers worry about the economy. I'll let the bankers worry about the economy. I'll let the bankers worry about the economy.
I'll let the bankers worry about the economy. Never mind. I'm just going to do things. I'm going to print money. I'm going to give you back $250 next April, probably just in time for an election. I'm going to take the GST off fattening stuff, off junk food and booze to make you fat and stupid and drunk. Because you deserve to enjoy your holiday season. Notice it's not Christmas season. As a matter of fact, all the Liberal MPs and cabinet ministers were all over social media today talking about Pierre Poilievre being the Grinch. But they never mentioned Christmas. They could not mention the word Christmas. It's hilarious. Go on X for yourself and see. They even show you a picture of the Grinch. And so I posted on one of their posts, I said something like, go ahead and say Christmas. Say it. Christmas. But they can't. They can't say it because you know why. You know why. So let's get back to this. The polls. The latest poll we have in goes back 5 or 6 days from Abacus, and it shows the Conservative Party at 43%, the Liberals at 21%, the NDP at 21%, and then the rest, right? Nanos, we know, is controlled by CTV because CTV rents him out for their weekly show there. What's it called? Nanos on the Numbers or something. So he is contracted to CTV, who is contracted to the Liberal Party of Canada. So obviously Nanos is going to soften those numbers a bit. He's going to bring the Liberals up consistently. That's what he does. Brings the Liberals up, brings the Conservatives a little bit down. So 40-25 there. And then 41-25 the previous week. Ecos has got the Conservatives even lower and the Liberals at 28, and all the rest, Abacus and Leger, they've got the Liberals down there around 21 or 22. Angus Reid, same thing. And the NDP, 19 or 20. So we know why Nanos does it, but why does Ecos do it? Why does Ecos polling always bring the Liberal numbers up? Well, could it be because the boss of Ecos, Frank Graves, is a longtime Liberal supporter? And he made a threat a couple of years ago when Pierre Poilievre was running for the leadership of the CPC to keep him from winning? This is the chairman of the board, the boss, the big guy of a polling firm in this country, Frank Graves, president and founder. Oh, and by the way, he got his money from his daddy, of Ecos Research Associates, went on the attack against Pierre Poilievre's populist-tinged bid to become Conservative leader. This is a couple of years ago, guys. Unquestionably, Graves has the right to express his opinions, but his online onslaught as head of a prominent political polling firm only dumped fuel on the populist fire he loathes. Now, exactly, tell me what a populist is. I always hear it's not a popularity Ooh, we got to get rid of that thing. Why does a video just pop up like that? It sucks. Anyway, populism. Somebody that people like because they come up with the right things, the right policies. Populism, that is a smokescreen. It's a made-up word. It means nothing, right? I mean, if you want to talk about a real populist leader, let's look at Justin Trudeau. All smoke, no substance. Zero up here. How did Justin Trudeau get elected as the Prime Minister of Canada? His name and his looks, and that's it. He has absolutely no track record to run on. No job, really, to speak of. All kinds of rumors following him around for years and years and years. And yet somehow he manages to become the Prime Minister of a country? A G7 country like Canada? Are you kidding me? Now that is an actual populist. Pierre Poilievre knows his stuff. Max Bernier knows his stuff for the most part. Jagmeet Singh doesn't. Why is he leading the NDP right now? Why do you think that is? I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. But this is what Frank Graves of Ecos polling says. Pierre Poilievre is an acolyte of authoritarian populism. Authoritarian. Like, wasn't it Justin Trudeau that rolled out the police on all of those peaceful protesters in Ottawa a couple of years ago? Pat King was found guilty of today. Wasn't Justin Trudeau the one that froze all those bank accounts? Told people who didn't take the jab that they couldn't travel on boats or planes or buses or trains next to vaccinated people? First of all, that's not how vaccines are supposed to work. Wasn't it Trudeau who did that? Poilievre is somehow the authoritarian? You're on notice, Pierre. Going to make sure you're never going to lead my country, and I don't make idle threats. Okay, what does that mean then exactly, Frank? Anyway, I just wanted to show you guys that, considering the fact that this guy is the guy who runs Ecos polling. So pay no attention to Nanos, take those guys out of the mix, and pay no attention to Ecos, because we know that they are completely and totally biased towards the Liberal Party of Canada. People are hurting out there. Trudeau says he's trying to help with that by giving people some of their own money back. But he's the one who created the problem. And so he also came up with MAID Canada. Hey, having some money problems? Might want to kill yourself. This is a story comes from TNC.news. Most Canadians, fear those struggling will turn to assisted suicide. The majority of Canadians are now worried that those who struggle socially or financially may end up seeking assisted suicide instead of adequate health care, according to a recent study. The Angus Reid Institute conducted a study along with Cardis, a Christian think tank based in Hamilton, to better understand Canadians' relationship with the government's controversial medical assistance in dying program. First introduced in 2016, the program has since assisted in the suicides of over 40,000 Canadians. That's a city the size of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. 40,000. We lead the world. The study found that 3 in 5 Canadians, 62%, say they worry about socially and financially vulnerable Canadians looking to MAID in lieu of adequate and quality health care. Well, I thought our healthcare system was awesome. That's a startling figure when one considers how many Canadians currently live with moderate or severe physical or mental health disabilities in addition to grappling with economic strains. I know what you guys are saying in comments. I totally get it. I get it. Furthermore, the majority of respondents who identified as suffering from some such condition also reported having faced discrimination during a healthcare experience, citing poor quality and access. Well, discrimination, of course it is. I was discriminated against. Kill me, please. Previous research from Angus Reid found that 29% of Canadians, or 9 million, had chronic difficulty accessing health care. Canadians working in healthcare, either currently or formerly, are also concerned about the access challenges people living with disabilities face in Canada. 2 in 5, 37% healthcare say healthcare for PWD is good, 34% excellent, 3%, well, a larger group say it's bad or terrible. Meanwhile, 2 in 5 of these workers say they lack the knowledge and tools needed to address the needs of PWD. So they're saying that more and more people are killing themselves, and yeah, they may be right. 40,000 people. I mean, I don't know. Were those people killing themselves? Not that you can kill yourself more than once. I totally get it. But would people kill themselves by themselves before all of this assisted suicide thing? I mean, 40,000? That's insane. What do we always hear the transgender lobby say to us about gender affirming care? They say, if these kids don't get gender affirming care, they're going to kill themselves. Well, here's a study. Got it off Substack. Childhood gender dysphoria occurs in 0.1% of kids, and 80% of cases resolve with natural puberty. This is by Dr. Peter McCullough. This week, my co-author, John Leake, who is a historian and best-selling true crime author, reported on a new crime committed by doctors at prestigious academic medical centers, transgender medicine since the beginning of mankind. Little girls developed into women and boys into men. In the last few decades, led by the Dutch, a medical experiment has been conducted on children who, as they approach puberty, are not comfortable with their gender, a rare condition termed childhood gender dysphoria. The DSM-5 estimates that 0.005% to 0.014% of males and 0.002% to 0.003% of females develop gender dysphoria. The outcomes of this novel experiment have been nothing short of horrific. Physical illness due to side effects of medication, puberty blockers, hormones, retarded development of intellect, increases in the burden of psychiatric care needs, sterilization, disfigurement, and increases in all-cause mortality. Transgender medicine has been determined by at least 25 states, most commonly at the level of the Supreme Court, to be so heinous that it's banned for children under the age of 18. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, let me just get rid of this whole thing here. Continue reading. Click. All right. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has filed lawsuits against 3 doctors who have violated this ban and must have felt compelled to disrupt the normal pubertal process. Catalina Haino et al. Have summarized the work of prior studies and have determined that at least 80% of CGD resolves with normal puberty. Cognitive behavior therapy likely can increase this number considerably. For those who do not resolve CGD, they may make bi or homosexual choices in adulthood. Importantly, with the natural process, there is no harm inflicted. No harm inflicted. Now, this is a letter that was sent out to parents of Hillside School, kindergarten parents, Hillside School in New York State, I believe. Yeah, New York. Our gender curriculum focuses on Hillside's core value of respect and aims to center discussions on gender identity. The students will learn and discuss. There's a lot you can't tell tell about a person by simply looking at them. The students will look at pictures of children, talk about what they notice and what they think they know about the children just from the pictures. Using their observations, we will then take the opportunity to introduce vocabulary to describe characters of different identities, cisgender, transgender, non-binary, in a developmentally appropriate way. Donald Trump cannot get into power fast enough. Look what's going on with the Royal Canadian Navy now. They're considering, actually, we hear another story that says they've already dropped their traditional marching song over diversity issues. What's it called? The Heart of Oak? It's called the Heart of Oak. The marching song, The Heart of Oak, is under fire for language that does not align with values and ethos of today's Royal Canadian Navy. It's a centuries-old anthem. It contains references to colonialism and slavery and doesn't represent everyone who wears the uniform, including women and francophones. Defense Minister Bill Blair said, "The Heart of Oak was written in 1759. Yeah, and I think it's a tradition, and we're not necessarily saying that we abandon all tradition, but I think the new Royal Canadian Navy has a right to choose its own path forward, and I would certainly support that." Blair said he's seen people trying to suggest that this is part of some other agenda. Quite frankly, I think that's nonsense. He actually had the nerve to say that. I think the Royal Canadian Navy has every right to continue to advance and modernize, and if they want to have an anthem that's appropriate for them and theirs alone, how can we say no? Well, simply put, you just say no, because we know what agenda is in play here, and for you to deny that that agenda is in play is bald-faced lying. So this is a week anniversary since CUPW went on strike, the Posties. They want more money. They want to remain full-time employees, and they want something else. They want something else. David Menzies of Rebel News was out there on the picket lines today, and he filed this report.
For Rebel News here in Mississauga, Ontario, and I'm standing outside the Canada Post Gateway facility. This is the largest sorting hub in all of Canada. They've been out on strike since last Friday. And when we look at the point of contention, as always, it is money. Canada Post has offered the rank and file 11.5% raise over 4 years. It's also offering protection of the defined benefit pension for current employees, as well as job security and health benefits. But it would appear they're miles apart. The union is demanding a 24% wage increase, which I think is really something, especially considering the facts of the matter. For example, since 2018, Canada Post, with multi-million-dollar losses every year, they have now gone into a $3 billion deficit position. It's not that the cupboard is bare, it's that the cupboard has been repossessed. It does not exist. There is nothing there. Also keep in mind, folks, from the glory days, pre-email, Canada Post volume has declined by 70%. No surprise there. Speaking personally, all I get in my mailbox is flyers. Junk mail is what is apparently saving Canada Post from even going into a further deficit. But here is a real whopper in the list of demands that their woke union, CUPW, wants. And it's this. They want Canada Post to pay for transgender surgery of the rank and file. Mailman Michael wants to be mailwoman Michelle. It is Canada Post, already in a $3 billion deficit, like I said, that has to pony up the cost of the surgery. You know, one of the demands that the strikers are asking for is Canada Post to pay for transgender surgery of the employees. What do you make of that?
Can't comment.
Can't comment?
I won't comment, but you have to refer to the media team.
Does management get free transgender surgery?
We have to refer to the media team.
No comment. No comment? If you're successful, you're not going to transition into a lady, are you?
No comment.
No. You're happy as a female, I take it.
Very.
Okay.
All right, I'm happy as a lady.
Okay.
For now. Anyways, yeah.
Oh, no, never. That's never happened yet.
Okay,
Absolutely. No, sir.
No? Okay.
You know, CUPW was one of the unions involved with Antifa during the Manitoba version of the Freedom Convoy back in 2022. And back then, I guess all of us were still new to this whole idea of going out in the street and protesting anything. I mean, we'd never done that before. We're not professionals at it, right? Unlike Antifa. And so Antifa uses certain tactics like holding signs or sticking umbrellas in your face or megaphones or whatever. They don't actually physically attack you usually. And if they do, they make it look like you're the one attacking them and they're defending themselves with a brick. So anyway, during the Manitoba Freedom Convoy a couple of years ago, one day we noticed there was this group forming on the steps of the legislature, and the convoy, in case you don't know, Winnipeg, was set up just south of the legislative grounds, definitely within walking distance of the front doors of the legislature. And there was this massive group forming on the front steps of the legislature, and many of us noticed it, and we went over to see. But the police also had barricades set up, you know, those orange things. And if we crossed it, there was going to be a problem, some problem. I don't know what the problem would have been. I mean, it's a public sidewalk after all. But anyway, so we stood there, and there's about 100 of us standing there. It's minus 35. So I was surprised these people were actually out there, these Antifas. And they were one at a time coming down from the steps of the legislature directly towards us, maybe about 10 feet away from us, holding a sign, some stupid sign regarding whatever their message of the day was, and condescending. They're all wearing face masks, and of course, you know, 2022. And people were furious. They wanted to jump the fence and go and attack these people because they were just so awful. But what we noticed was that many of them were wearing CUPW insignia on their coats. And I thought, so you as members of the Postal Workers Union are affiliating yourself with a terrorist organization, even though they haven't been listed as a terrorist organization? We know what they are. When they say Antifa, they say, oh, it's just an idea. It's a philosophy. It's an ideology. No, it's not. We know what Antifa is. And CUPW merged with them on that day. And I couldn't believe it. And I think the rank and file members probably don't know that because they don't care, right? All they want their money. They want their full-time wages. They want their benefits. They want their time off. They want all that stuff. But it's the union leadership that's been infiltrated, not just with CUPW, but CUPE, all across the West, essentially. The union leaderships have all been infiltrated with these Antifa, globalist wingnuts, and our institutions as well. And that's how we've gotten to this point in our history. These people, these whining, they figured it out. They figured the best way to affect change, their kind of change, would be to go ahead and grab positions of power, elected and unelected, so they could go ahead and do just that. And then having Trudeau as prime minister does not hurt them either. Or people like Rob Ford in Ontario, or David Eby in British Columbia, or Wab Kinew in Manitoba. These people will work right along with them, whatever it takes, right? And everything is politicized all the time. Look what happened in Ontario about a year ago. This bill was introduced. Let me throw this up on the screen here. Bill 94, Keeping 2SL LGBTQI plus Community Safe Act. Basically what they wanted, and this bill is not in second reading yet. It came out in April of 2023. It's still in first reading. It's been passed. Nothing has been done with this bill. But the day it was announced, oh my God, it was insane. They want safe zones around drag queen story hour presentations so no drag queens get hurt. And this was the scene at Queen's Park in April of 2023. In a government building paid for by you, Ontario people. Look at this.
We will not let fear win. A world without trans people has never existed. A world without drag has never existed, and it never will. Queer people have always been here amongst us. They are our coworkers. They are our brothers, our sisters. They are our mothers, our fathers. They are our families. Drag is art. Drag is culture.
Look at this blonde one here. Like not the one on the far left, the short one, the actual woman. Look at the look on her face. Oh my God, I feel so bad for you. Like clearly virtue signaling. Let's 10 more seconds here. I know it's tough, but.
Drag is educational. Drag is creative. Drag is comedy, but drag is not a crime. My name is Scarlett Bobo, and thank you so much for your time.
Drag is not for kids. I don't care if you want to do drag. I mean, like, here's what I say, man. Go for it. Fill your boots. Whatever you want to do in your private time is fine. I don't care. You keep it away from the kids. You keep it away from the kids. Drag needs to go back to where it came from, which is some dingy club in some seedy part of town. Nobody knows where it really is, but everybody knows it's there. Lastly, and what I can tell you about this particular piece I'm going to play for you in a second, Joy Reid from MSNBC, which we understand has been put up for sale by Comcast, although I don't know that to be completely true. I only read a little bit about that today. And CNN laying off all kinds of people as well, because those two networks just got lambasted, right? Lambasted. Anyway, if I would have said something like this on the radio or even privately on a Facebook video, I would have been fired. Essentially, what Joy Reid is doing in this video is telling people who happen to be in families with mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters who voted for Donald Trump to disown them. It's what she's saying. Watch this.
People are rightfully alarmed. They have a reason to be alarmed. And if you would vote for that, people may not feel so confident that they're safe with you. This is not crazy. This is legitimate feelings of fear of you and a feeling that you might not be someone they could trust. If this thing goes way south, autocracies go south real fast and things get ugly and people get asked to do things and turn people in and point people out and turn on them. And if you're voting affirmatively, gleefully for this, people might, may not feel so confident in you anymore. That's real, and you kind of have to live with it. So if you think that you can vote for what people see as their destruction and then demand that they still are cool with you and kiki with you and have Thanksgiving with you, like, I think you're kind of missing the point of what people are upset about. They're afraid. And autocracy and fascism are things that are legitimate to be afraid of. So you may want to step back.
Okay, this woman is a psychopath. She is a paranoid psychopath. She has no place on television. She has no place in the public eye whatsoever. She is, in my opinion, crazy. And she should be fired for that. She didn't come right out and say, tell them to, leave. But she is encouraging people. Now, we all know that's part of the globalist destabilization plan, right? Like break up families. That's what you do. You break up the nuclear family. That's the first thing. Destabilize, demoralize. But if I would have said that on the radio when I was working in the corporate media, fired instantly. Are you actually, Shadow, telling people to leave their family because who they voted for, or kick your kids out of the house because they voted conservative? Are you crazy? You would be, the way that would have worked was you would be reported back at that time, and I'm going back to say, 2015, 2016 now. You would be reported to the CSBC, the Canadian Standards Broadcast Council, the CBSC, whatever, and then the CRTC, and they would issue a ruling that says you have to go on the air in a primetime slot. So in radio, that's between 7 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. or between 4 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. You have to go on the air during that time, and you have to issue this apology. You have to write it yourself, and then you have to go on and read it. Or the company will write it for you, and you go and read this apology, or you're fired. For something like that, absolutely. Joy Reid should be fired, period. That is absolutely inappropriate. That's all we've got tonight for you guys on the show. Don't forget a big guest week next week on the Shadow at Night live stream. I love you all. I appreciate you all. I thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to like and share. Get it out there to as many people as you possibly can. For those of you joining me on the extension in 2 minutes time at shadowdavis.com, for you all access members tonight, it's Russia, Russia, Russia. I'll see you there in 2 minutes. Bye for now. Buttons, no.